I love nature and I want to live a relaxed life. I don't like stress and I certainly don't want a fast-paced life. I don't quite remember when I became addicted to ponds, but it was pretty early on. Like lots of people, water soothes me and I just want to be around it. Anyway, I get asked a lot about how much maintenance are all my ponds. And they're honestly very little. It has a lot to do with what my expectations are and how the ponds are designed and built. So this morning while I was beginning my day, I thought I'd grab the GoPro and show you pretty much a typical summer morning for me in my yard. If you don't already know me, my name is Kev, and the aim of my channel is to help people build and maintain ponds and water gardens without spending a fortune. So if that sounds like something that interests you, you might like to subscribe and check out my website, ozponds.com. So while I sit here enjoying my cuppa, watching the fish and topping up this particular pond, I'll talk about expectations. The expectation for me personally is that my ponds look nice, and my favourite ponds are the ones that blend into the landscape. This pond sits in my courtyard and I really enjoy watching the goldfish, especially in the morning with my cup of tea. I do have other ponds in my front yard and we'll get to them later. But I want my ponds to be easy to maintain, I want the animals living in them to be happy and healthy, and I don't mind if they look a little dirty, as well, nature is dirty. I mean, if they looked pristine year round and I didn't need to do any work, I wouldn't complain either. But the fact of the matter is that these ponds are outside and all kinds of debris enters them. There's constant leaf litter, fish going to the toilet, plants dying inside the pond, and dirt and dust blowing in. And I could make a concerted effort to keep it clean, but I've just found that all this debris has benefits to the fish by feeding all kinds of little organisms that help break down this waste. That means I don't need to directly feed my fish in these outdoor ponds, and I don't need to overclean or overfilter them. Another expectation I have is that I want clear water, and that can be achieved very easily. There's lots of ways that this can be achieved, and I've talked about that plenty, so if you're interested you can watch my previous videos or check out my website ozponds.com to learn more about how to filter water cheaply and easily. So those are my basic expectations. Clear water, low maintenance, and blends into the landscape. And of course I want them to be cheap to build and run because, well, I'm a tight ass. So most mornings in summer I start off with a swim in my largest pond. Having a little swim around helps stir the pond up. This pond only has small native fish, so they don't really swim around enough to stir up any of the sediments. For filtration, this pond has 2 large bog filters, a long stream and an intake bay. The intake bay is where the pumps are located, so all the water and debris that gets stirred up is pulled into this one point. So usually once I've gone in and had some breakfast, I come back and give the intake bay a quick little net. There's no way I can net out all the debris that accumulates over time, but just a little bit here and there means I don't need to do a big clean. From the intake bay, the water is pumped to either the bog filters, some circulation jets, or the stream. About once a year, I do try and flush the bog filters, and I made a video on that last year, so if you want to see that, I'll put a link in the description. In the streams, I don't really do anything apart from thin the plants out from time to time. In summer, this pond needs to be topped up at least once a week if I haven't had any rain. I have a water tank for this purpose. On my medium-sized ponds, I just use mains water. I don't treat it with a dechlorinator when doing top-offs. I do have a couple of videos on evaporation, so I'll link one of those in the description. While I'm topping off the medium-sized ponds, I like to take a watering can and top up some of my smaller container ponds. I have a few of these small no-filter ponds around the garden. These small ponds are awesome for breeding small fish. If you are keeping fish outdoors and in naturalistic environments, it's inevitable that predators will come. So it is nice to have a few smaller ponds where you can breed some extra fish. Some of my container ponds do also have bog filters with moving water. I don't feed the fish in any of the outdoor medium to large size ponds, but I do feed the fish in all the container ponds. If I have any tiny fry, I like to separate them and try and feed them with green water. To get the green water, I just use some fish food, put it in the water and leave it out in the sun. The sunlight, there being no filtration, and the nutrients in the water encourage the growth of the tiny floating algae. On the small container ponds outside, I need to manually remove leaf material, excessive algae or plant growth whenever needed. Last night was quite windy, so today I was doing it on this little patio bowl while I was waiting for one of the other ponds to finish topping off. This particular pond sits under birch trees, so it gets plenty of leaf drop. So this was a pretty common morning for me at this time of year. If you like this type of thing, let me know in the comments and tickle the thumbs up button. And remember, you can see how any of these ponds were built by scrolling through my previous uploads. You can also find energy efficient pumps, the pond liner that I like to use, and heaps of helpful resources for building and maintaining a pond without spending a fortune at my website ozponds.com. I do hope you find my channel and website helpful, and you can create something that brings you as much peace and happiness as my ponds bring me. Thanks for watching. See ya.